you struggling with confidence? My guest today, Melissa Louise, has some thoughts and strategies to help you feel more confidence in your sex, your relationships, and everywhere you go. Welcome to the Better Sex Podcast. I'm your host, Deborah Catt, certified tantric educator, dominatrix, and relationship guide for over 20 years, helping people create connection that feels alive, honest, and deeply satisfying. This is where we have unfiltered conversations about sex and relationship, the kind that help you explore what's real, what's possible, and what actually works for you, so that you can have better sex on your terms. These conversations are honest and sometimes raw and may not be appropriate for all listeners. So please listen with care. I truly believe that a sexy world creates a happier and a safer world. So if you want to do your part in creating a safe and sexy world, please hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps people to find these conversations, to join the movement towards more love, better sex, and better relationships. So, if you are ready to take sex and love from stuck to sizzling, head over to deborahcatt.com and book a sexual mastery breakthrough session. It's a personalized one-on-one experience designed to help you reconnect with your desire and start creating the sex life you actually want. Because a podcast can spark your curiosity, but transformation comes from practice. So, speaking of practice and confidence, I am so excited to introduce you to Melissa Louise, your ultimate pleasure advocate. She supports women in reclaiming their non-negotiable birthright to live their full, orgasmic, pleasureful turn-on, no matter what age or the relationship status. She helps men to fully occupy their sexual power, what she calls the cock energy, so they feel more grounded, more trustworthy, and more alive. Through her work, men discover how to last longer, understand women more deeply, and experience the kind of freedom that changes everything, including your success, your confidence, and your relationships. I am so ridiculously excited to introduce Melissa Louise. She is a magical creature and a new connection that I am just so excited about. So, on that note, please help me in welcoming the radiant, the revolutionary, the Melissa Louise. I'm so happy to have you here.
Goodness, what an introduction. And I love that you called me a creature. I'm gonna take that further on into my future. It's fantastic. Thank you, darling. I'm just excited as you are for us to have this conversation, for us to be connecting this way and to be on your podcast. Like, what an honor. So thank you.
Well, thank you for saying yes. And, sex and relationship, like, how did you get here? Like, what was your path?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I actually do love this question. I get to be really reminded. I was raised, in a country, South Australia, very Christian-based sort of environment, and also an environment which, very, very masculine project-led, especially being on the land. Everything is run by the man, by what the man needs to do the land. In Christianity, the way that I was raised up with Christianity is, as a woman, you're the fucking danger. The culture raises women to be shut down. The culture raises women to be silent. The culture raises that anything that happens is a woman's fault. The culture is not raising men to take care of themselves. It's always the feminine's fault. It's always a young girl. It's what she's wearing. It's how she's acting. She shouldn't have been there anyway if something ever happened. So I come out of, experience of sexual abuse, and where that was just shoved under the rug, like for many, many women. And it's like, as an 8-year-old girl, it was still somehow something that I had to carry and we weren't going to talk about. So coming through with dealing with that, just as many, many of us women have, and boys in Australia, our statistics are horrendously high. And also living my life as a solo woman. Like I went and worked in the gold mining industry. I traveled and hitchhiked around the world on my own so many years. So I had this fierceness in life, but I would still navigate as a woman. It's like, well, that's way too much. And I always told I wouldn't be chosen. And, I was too much for this, too much for that. So I lived in this arena of like, well, who I am and what is so alive for me is somehow so horrendously wrong and unacceptable. And led a life, got into drug addiction, all of that stuff, went down this path. And when I finally sort of came to my moment to Mother Mary, they always say it's a coming to Jesus moment. I came to Mother Mary. I'm like, she was cool. Just like that's who I came to. It was just like this. There is no way that in the form of creation, that myself as a woman is so horrendously wrong that I need to be navigating everything tethering to the world around me. So it was a huge self-revolution and, the rebellion. And I used to get called rebel failure from my therapist, my first therapist I had who saved my life. She's just like, you're rebel failure. Like you're so angry at the world, you're so angry at all of these concepts, but you're not doing anything about it. You're just angry at everyone. I'm like, yes, I am. So my moment was like, well, what? I have to start with me. And by this time I was raising my son. I didn't know what to do with boys. I was wild. He didn't wear shoes, and I didn't put him into school, and I was traveling in Central South America. Like that way was how I was navigating a world I didn't trust, but I still didn't know how to communicate with a boy, or a guy. Like I was just like, this is so much fun at this age. What's going to happen when he's a man? He's just like this thing. So I had to go on a really self journey around truly loving myself, accepting myself as a woman, not tethering my female experience to the masculine project, really finding my voice for myself that wasn't concerned with whether that was acceptable or not. And so I had to move through many layers of anger and resentment around that. And then to really just love myself as an aging woman in my orgasm and in my pleasure, and that my pleasure wasn't dangerous. So I went towards what I needed. And so I'm working in the arena of what I so deeply, deeply needed. And after so many failed relationships and even, having a child with a man that I wasn't in relationship with anymore, and all of that pain, and just looking around me that is everywhere. And we're not taught to be in relationship with ourselves. And yet we're required, not so much now, but for so long, we were required to even have a mortgage, to even get bank loans. We had to be tethered to a man around that, which meant relationship. And we were never taught to be in that. So to me, I'm leading a revolution.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up about the mortgage, because I just saw something that here in the United States, it's only been like 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
50 years since it was, legal or illegal to say you can't have a mortgage without your husband signing it. Like, I find that to be crazy. And here we are.
Yeah.
So I hear that you had this journey, and I definitely hear and feel the anger around the unfairness of it all. Um, and so I'm curious, like, now you're turning towards really supporting men.
Mm.
And what what is it that caused that change?
My biggest breakthrough in all of my world of pleasure and sexology and all of that stuff was realizing that the men weren't the enemy.
Mm.
Because I was raised, I'm not even saying like everywhere I looked, there weren't happy relationships, and I was involved with so many women as far as like friendship circles and things like that. So there's this constant thing that men don't understand. Men are this, men are that, and also through the sexual abuse and through many other different things about this mistrust of men. And so my hugest breakthrough was to look at my part in that, but also my part of I have no idea how to communicate with men. I don't even understand what they're saying. I don't like everything that was, I work with a lot of men and they say, I don't understand women. I said, try being on this side looking to you. Don't work.
Makes sense.
None of us make sense to each other. And so I had a profound experience when, when my son had just turned 8 with a teacher that I started working with through another program. And she completely, just reading her book and working with her in that program, my whole attitude towards men changed. And my whole life and my experience with men changed. Also, too, it's so interesting in the world of, I was comfortable with being in a man. I was more afraid of women than men. So it's kind of dichotomies. Like I was very afraid of women, especially raised, you're in competition with women. You're not going to be chosen. You're too much. So therefore you will not be married, which is how your safety will be fed in social circles, family circles, and, social structure. So it was easy to be with a man. I was always vivacious, always outspoken. So I could have fun with men. I just didn't understand them and I had them at bay. And I was really afraid of women. So to work with men sexually, I started as a tantric masseuse and as a tantric, like a tantrika is, one of the words that get used, but I wasn't. So it was easy for me to work with men that way.
Mm-hmm.
But my biggest breakthrough was truly understanding, realizing not the enemy. And so my whole world just truly deepened. And then the biggest thing for me was to be very comfortable of who I am as a woman in front of a man and just adore them for who they were, not for what they could, try and not my experience tethered to them. It was so huge that I was just, working with men is such an incredible gift. Incredible. Yeah.
I know for me, working in the realm of men and especially those really intimate places, is I got to see a version of the masculine that I was never told about, right? It wasn't really in culture. It wasn't the kind of conversations we were having. And so I can totally feel where you're talking about having this opening and this connection piece and allowing the masculine to be what it is without having to put it in a box. Because as much as we talk about, women and the feminine being put in the box, I think the man box is also really damaging and really hard to get out of.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're raised in a culture that pitches each other against one another.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's this constant low level mistrust of one another. And if we look at that as an energetic, and yet we're meant to marry each other, is like the structure is like you need to be in relationship with each other, but we're going to have this low level sort of layer where you don't understand each other, you mistrust each other, and you're going to hurt each other.
Mm-hmm.
You stay. Make sure you get together. So I think there's a lot to be pulled apart there, but I really hear you too around that part of where we get to be in the spaces where the men have the opportunity and the courage and the vulnerability to really show their deeper selves. And I never take it for granted. It's always such an honor. And, we're very blessed that we get to witness that and be a part of it. So lucky.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about your work with men and what does it look like? What does it look like to start developing confidence?
Oh gosh. First of all, is really owning who you are as a person and your desires and what you want.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really big part of it. There's I don't do a lot of Mr. Nice Guy work, but I know that book and I know the arena of so many men that are trying to navigate their way through the world and trying to show up in a way that they believe is really supportive and nice. And yet it's in polarity, and even that word gets overused a lot, but in the opposite of masculine and feminine, it's we want men to be truthful, not to be to us. So a lot of my work to begin with is really what do you want? How do you want to show up? What do you want out of your life? What do you want else in your life as opposed to just relationship? And straight off, I start working with men, teaching them how to masturbate and self-pleasure really well. And the reason we start there, even though it's just this is this one part of life. If we look at the opposing maps of arousal for men and women, women's map of it starts in our mind. Like, we need to feel connected to be able to be with someone, to go into safety. We need to feel this connection. Whereas the masculine's energetic starts in his cock. Like, that's his positive pole. A woman's positive pole is her heart. The negative pole is her pussy, whereas the man's negative pole is his heart. So that's Tantra, negative, positive pole. Taoism, maps of arousal. Our head needs to be, our mind needs to be turned on. We need to be intrigued. We need to hear how you're going to show up with us. We need to see it. All up here in the head, the mind, we need to visualize, we need to hear, we need to experience from the mind, and, hearing and voice and smell and eyes, all of, what we're looking at, for our heart to start to open. Like, this is the first gateway of, I guess, opening, if we want to say that. Then our heart will open. It starts to open towards the man, and only then will the pussy truly start to open. Whereas for the man, it's the opposite. And yet in our culture, when I talk about cock energy, in our current cultural narrative, cock energy is I want it, I'm going to have it, I'm going to take it. The quick ejaculation, the pornography arena, any movie that we watch. Movies are not even long enough for a woman to be open half the time. It's like, if they've never met the guy and they meet, or they're going out on a date, by the time, it's like the movie's not even long enough for the female body to even get aroused. Like, really, when you look at everything there. So it's not even just pornography, it's just the visualization of what's in the world of how sex happens. So a man is completely, like, the whole experience is not even given to men to understand. What's given to them is that they need to solve a problem, which is which is sex. And sex equals an orgasm. And the majority of the time it's the man has an orgasm. Like, the gap is so huge that women don't have an orgasm generally with sex, like in the ways that they need or want. And many women have this belief that they can't orgasm through penetration, all of this stuff, because of the way that sex is being presented and how often the act happens. So a man is moving through the world of like, oh, I've got a problem to fix. He's not looking at women as problematic. Some do, problematic, but in the brain, I've got to fix that problem. I've got to create a result. So our world is like where it's you've got to expel it. You've got to get rid of it. You have arousal, go to it, like, do enough, and you need to be inside of the woman and you get to ejaculate. It is so basic. That is like the base level. And I would even put the word that is the adolescent way of having sex, which is how we often begin. It's not what your body is designed. A man's body is designed for so much more greatness. The Taoists and the Tantrics teach, say, raise that sexual energy up through. Yes, you're aroused. You know what you want. The direction of your erection is like, I want to go towards that. And this is not just women and sex. It's about your business. It's about your turn on to life. It's like men that go, that get into their sports, like motocross, riders, or like a guy that's so into skydiving. Like, that's the direction of his erection. He's turned on. He wants to push that limit. He's going to get that adrenaline. So he will go. Just think about it. Skydiving. I always bring soccer in. Skydiving, if you want to be a skydiver, oh my God, the stuff you need to learn. Yeah. You need to learn all around the aerodynamics. You need to learn around the height. You need to learn about how much feet you have between the ground and when you need to pull the chute. Like, the father of my child actually used to do acrobatics in the jump out of the plane. They've got 30, depends what height, 30 to 60 seconds to do all of these formations before they pull the chute. Do you know how much study and practice goes into that? Men need to do the same amount of study and practice to a woman's body. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, you've got to, and that's what the Taoists and the Tantrics teach. Your sexual energy is it's the initiation. It's what incites. It's what is there's another word I'm looking, like the flame, like the ignition.
It's the ignition.
Yes. But you get to raise that up your core, up your spine, that sexual energy, self-pleasure well, masturbate well, learn your pleasure zone, learn your, like the PNR they call it, learn all of this stuff. So it raises up into your chest, your heart. So your heart is open to the world, to what needs to do, into your brain. So you can come up with great ideas and great things and start to notice what's going on for your woman. Our culture keeps the sexual energy in the pelvis, and it's depleting our men. It's keeping them in adolescent behavior when it comes to sex, and it's keeping them really shut off to their greatness. So the first thing is, it's like we've got to practice self-pleasuring well so that you can also have more energy and be stronger and not be so exhausted and not age the way, not have the disease that we have, like the lack of ease in our body.
So, what does masturbating well mean? Like,
What a great question. So how we do one thing is how we do everything. So I always ask my clients, and there's a big silence every time I ask this question. When I first start working with men, I say, are you masturbating the same way, or, jerking off? Some of them, are you jerking off or masturbating the same way that you were when you were 14, when you first started? Like, what's different? And there's silence. Because most of the time, there's nothing different. It's still quick, it's still shame-filled. It's in the corner. It's in the shower. It's when they're angry or annoyed or frustrated. It is trying to get to sleep. So if that's the way that you are touching your cock, you are masturbating, you are treating your cock in the arena of frustration, in the arena of annoyance, in the arena of shame, in the arena of, I've just got 5 minutes, I'm just going to, pull one out, tug one out, whatever they call it, whatever, it depends what culture you're into, what it's called. And then you're expecting to go and be with a woman and last 3 hours. It's kind of like it's an absolute oxymoron, because your cock knows, and especially if you're not using oil and fruit and all of the different things. And I'll get into why that it sounds really kinky, but to me, it's just, we need to have different environments. A woman's pussy is different every single day. Yeah, because of the moon cycle that she's on. So her pussy is a different environment every single day. So if you're only masturbating with a dry hand and wondering why you can't last inside of the hot, warm, fluid-filled, pulsating world of the female vagina and going, I can't last long. It's like, well, where are you practicing? So masturbating well is practicing. It's like, how do you get on the court? Like what we're talking about skydiving. How do you get, if you want to play tennis or you want to play soccer, especially if you want to do a team sport with soccer and you're going into the championships with your team, you don't just play at Saturday at 3 p.m.
right.
You are eating well, you are running, you're in the gym, you're also practicing your kicks into a net consistently, and you're doing practice with your team all before you get to the main game. You're all week practicing for the main game. So masturbating well is practicing for your life, practicing for the bedroom, practicing for the woman, because if you're masturbating well, where you understand your PNR, you increase your pleasure zone, you increase the way that you're able to handle pleasure in a high arousal state. So you're also practicing your high arousal state and using different modalities to move, to drop the arousal. Then that's also going to go into the boardroom. The fact that you can if you are really pushing business deals, or you're really, even like as a firefighter, you're out, jumping as a parajumper into a fire. Like if your system's not used to just getting the hell out, stuff it, I'll just get out. If your system is used to holding, the capacity to hold, masturbating well is training your body and building your system to hold more pleasure, to hold more what is uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Tantra's, one of my favorite sayings from Tantra is, we're learning to become comfortable with what's uncomfortable. What's uncomfortable is a lot of arousal. How do you're not dispelling it, holding it. So if you're teaching your system and training your system to hold more, you can hold more and handle a hell of a lot more of life, as well as a woman.
That is such a great question. Are you still masturbating the same way you were when you were 14? And it reminds me, so I had a guest on, in my first season, Will Tantra, and he was actually the first person who opened my eyes to this idea that, if you're always masturbating on your back in the dark, and then you're expecting to do things differently when you're with a partner, that's not going to work really well. And so, for instance, he has people standing up, he has them on their back, he has them, on their hands and knees, he has them using pillows and all sorts of different props. And I'm like, This
So
is
that's when
awesome.
the fruit comes in. So that's when I was saying I'll tell you about the fruit. It's like, definitely, it's like if you want to hold a woman up on the wall, lean up against the wall and slow your masturbation down, like embody that action so that you know it. And so when I say fruit and the cold coconut oil, warm coconut oil, cold olive oil, warm olive oil, almond oil, maybe even use it yogurt and oil. Because I used to live in the jungle in Costa Rica, so papayas and mangoes, this juicy liquid. Use that, like feel what that feels like on your cock. So you've got all of these different sensations. So yeah, I'm with that guy. Position.
That's awesome. So masturbating well, learning how to be connected to your cock, learning how to have different kinds of sensations, different positions. And it sounds like there's really a mindset about being open and able to connect with and hold whatever your woman is going to bring to you, whatever the boardroom is going to bring to you. And tell me a little bit more about mindset.
This is, oh God, this is such a deep question in my world right now. Our brain can only get more of what it already knows. Yeah. What we tell ourselves is what we actualize. And this is coming out in science. Like, one person that really brought it to the mainstream in the masculine world was one of those people was Dr. Joe Dispenza, whether you, oh, shivers, I just knocked my table, sorry. Whether you align with him or not, he really brings in that whole concept around how the brain works. He's bringing the science in with the woo-woo. But there's so many people, so many teachers that talk about this. Your mind, if you're consistently in self-talk, number one, this is actually really interesting. If you're consistently in self-talk and you don't believe in your greatness and you don't believe in your values and you don't believe that you can hold your boundaries and actually create the life that you want, then in your system is the non-belief, is the fact that it's not going to work. The only thing that can happen is that it won't work because our brain goes towards what it knows. So you've got to give it what it knows. And I actually want to quickly bring in something. This is not around, but this is just something I read last night, actually. And I can't remember, and I wish I saved it, but it was a science guy who, and this is back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, where he took a guy that was about to be on the electric chair. This is what I'm talking about, how the brain will tell you something and it will be actualized. So he gave a guy a choice. Do you want to be electrocuted right now? Because he was on death row. You can be electrocuted by the electric chair to die, or I can take you and you'll be strapped to a bed and I'm going to cut your artery and your blood will come out drop by drop and you will die, but you're not going to feel anything because it's going to happen so gradually. This is like the statement that he was told. And the guy's like, I will take that. The guy was strapped to the bed, obviously strapped so he couldn't sit up, so he couldn't see his arm. The doctor or the scientist, the professor, I should say, surface cut. No blood coming out, surface cut. So, of course, he could feel the skin like being scratched with a razor blade or whatever. But because the guy's like, that's what he's doing, I'm going to cut your artery right now. So he's like, cut. And then underneath the bed, there was a metal container that he had a water drip that he was controlling, the professor. So it was a drip, 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 drip. And so the person lying on the bed could hear the dripping of the blood, the dripping of the water, but thought it was his blood. So he's in full belief that he's losing blood. So it goes over days. And over the days, the water drip was slowed and slowed and slowed and slowed down to wherever the source was so that the man could hear his body. Like, he's like, okay, if the blood is dripping slowly, therefore his body has got less and less blood in it. Like the blood is going down and now it's getting less and less blood until the professor ceased the water. So now there's no blood coming out of his body. So the guy is there. He's got no more blood in his body. That's his belief. He has a heart attack and dies. There's no reason for him to die. His brain, he's like, drip, 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 blood's coming out. It's slowing down. He's starting to like, and then it's panicking and panicking. I've got no blood left. I've got no blood left. I'm about to die. So his body manifests his death through a heart attack. He was fully fit. He was like, so this is, so when we took, that's quite an extreme example, but just to point out, I know, well, I'm a Scorpio and touch is about death and life and orgasm. We're going to go at the opposite. But I wanted to bring that in because it points out, we can look at many mindset teachers and stuff, talk about go, but here's a fully physical example of a man believing that his artery was cut, but it wasn't. And because he heard something, his mind has made the story, has made its mind. So even though the mind is connected to the nervous system and the mind has blood going through it, do you know what I mean? Like the brain has, like we have a system, but the mind is so powerful that even though the body is full of blood, the mind's believing there's no, what he's told is like, I'm going to die. So because there's blood in the body and it's not dying of loss of blood, he's got to find somewhere else, another way to die. Heart attack, boom. The guy goes. So mindset, you go towards what you know.
Mm-hmm.
So finding ways, there's so many different modalities, real life vision, visualization, belief, seeing, like meditation, qigong. Your mindset of creating what you want is so important because we as humans are so incredibly powerful, and yet we're too busy living other people's lives instead of our own.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my answer to why mindset's so sorry, I didn't warn you about that.
I'm so curious. So as you bring in this, with your clients, how do you start shifting their minds, supporting them and shifting their mindset?
Well, also as an accelerated evolution coach, I'll often process, like we look at the charge in the body, like where do you believe that's not happening? We start to question our belief system. So, my calls we do a lot of like really deep dives into our belief systems, ways to shift them, ways to go, like, let's pivot, let's shift what's happening in your life, like what's filling in your time, with the masturbation practice, with visualization, with like taking on different sports. Like it's like if we look at the way that we do life and we're expecting a different result, but by still staying doing the same thing, like it's a form of insanity. So it's layer by layer. It's not just like, I just think these happy thoughts. It's not that at all. It's like there's the processing of the charge, there's going into where it started, coming through, coming out of that. I don't do a lot of talk therapy around that. That's where accelerated evolution is really amazing, where we work on the charge in the body. And for each man, it's different which way they want to go with the outline. So it's boom, boom.
I love that. So we've been talking mostly about men.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to pause for a moment because I know that working with women in that orgasmic energy for women is part of what you do. And I'm wondering if you can say a little bit about that.
Oh, I'd love to. And, when I was thinking about coming onto this beautiful conversation with you, I was, and this is like too, where the world manifests things. And I was thinking about this. And I can't remember what I opened up. And this woman was on, whether it was my computer or my phone, I can't remember. And she said this statement. I went, it's a statement that completely embodies or encapsulates why I work with women and me as a woman and where I put the line in the sand. But it was this line that and I can't even remember who it was. I can see her face. She basically said, it is so freeing when we stop auditioning for our own life. Oof. I just went, oh my goodness, especially now with the men that I get to work with, that's also very potent. But my work over the last 12, 13 years with women has been this, like, really bringing, oh my God, longer now, bringing into, it's like, we are not here tethering ourselves to a project that is masculine based, working with women, first of all, coming into where you're not dirty about your pleasure. There's nothing wrong with you about your pleasure. And also following your cycle. We are lunar rhythmic beings being forced to live in a sun rhythm led culture. This is not about against the sun. This is like we need to work alongside of. So my work is so deeply rooted in women coming into what is right for them, what their needs are around their cycle, and moving from that, working from that, and also understanding their body. First of all, we dismantle this framework that women take too long. Women never take too long. The narrative is that men don't take long enough. So flip a lot of that, looking at the narratives that are in their mind and running their course. And then, of course, doing the erotic blueprints, getting them to do that quiz to see, and also with men, it's not just women, but to see which way does their nervous system tether to pleasure? How is the nervous system tethering to pleasure as their first level of safety and eroticism? And we work with that because so many women that are either showing up as a sensual, a kink, or an energetic, and yet we live in a world that really pushes the sexual, then it's like all of this belief that there's something wrong with them, and it's just their nervous systems is not being given the opportunity to properly open and try to turn on. So we do a lot of...
Before you go any further, I just want to invite you to let us, what is the erotic blueprints? And, succinctly, I know this is not easy, but succinctly, can you go through them?
Yeah, beautiful. I'm actually going to use one example all through the erotic blueprints. I did this the other day and it just worked. It was amazing. It worked so well. So I had this new way of explaining it. Most people understand the love languages. So the 5 languages, how we give and receive love. So the erotic blueprints is exactly the same as that, around our turn. So it is the 5 different languages that our body tries to turn on. Our nervous system tries to turn on. So we the energetic, the sensual, the sexual, the kink, and the shapeshifter. That is not in hierarchical order either. So I'm going to give you an example. What can we... a moment of intimacy. I'll use the one that I used the other day, actually. So say a woman comes home, her man has been fixing the plumbing in the kitchen, yeah? And he's got his shirt off and he's, especially she finds him incredibly sexy. He's standing there, but he's just actually finished doing something. He's on his phone looking at something, leaning up against the sink, but all of the pipes and the tools are still on the floor. Like, I've got to set this up so you can get an understanding. But he's got no shirt on, he's leaning there. If a woman's blueprint is sexual, she's going to walk in. She's not going to see the tools on the floor. The only thing she sees is this bare chest with sweat on it. And she'll be like, we're off. She may fall to her knees and unzip his pants, or like, oh my God, let's go. Like, she's just like, she's turned on. She's walked in the door. So maybe she's left work, but she's had 15 minutes in the car. So she's very been. So as soon as she walks into the house, boom, there he is. Mm-hmm. A woman who's high on sensual will walk in. She'll see all of the tools on the floor. She'll see, the glue gun that's in the sink. She'll see the dishes that haven't been done. She's like, oh God, he's at the sink and he didn't even move the dishes. And now there's grease and now there's like her brain. And maybe he's listening to his type of music, which is like some country and Western ballad. And she's like, oh my God, like, do you know what I mean? And she doesn't like it. Mm-hmm. So her 5 senses are tethering to, oh, he's dirty. There's grease on his chest. There's tools. So her senses are like, the environment is screaming at me. Mm-hmm. Because he'll be leaning there and he sees her come in and maybe he leans against the sink and he's trying to seduce her and she's like, can we just clean this up? And I'm like, oh my God, They're energetic a little bit that way, but maybe their energetic is just, they've had a hard day at work. They've had lots of energy, other people's energy. They've just been to the supermarket. They've just been spent, 45 minutes in Costco and it's high, it's high, what do you call it? Peak hour traffic in Costco. Then so she's had all of these energy around her. She's on the phone. She's been navigating work. She's really spent. She walks into her house and then her man's there, like whether it's cluttered or not, but he wants to come up and hug her. Her system is already shut down. It's kind of a bit of a fight and flight. So him coming towards her, she might just like have her hands by her sides or maybe just lean and it's just too much. And so she's like, I've got to go and send these emails. And she needs to get out. She needs to get away because there's another human energetic that's right on her. She hasn't had the space to recalibrate. He wants to hold her. It's not so much the sweat or anything. It's just that someone touching her. So she needs more recalibration of time and space. The kink, if she walks in, there's all of this and there's pipes and there's some tape and and her partner's not sort of, And a partner's like, hey, babe, do you want to go? Or hey, babe. And she's like, there's no scene. Like, how he could work with that would be, it's like, he just like drops the phone, walks straight up to her, maybe grabs her shirt, looks her deep in the eye, doesn't say a damn word, you know, looks her deep in the eyes and, just takes her to the couch and sits her down and says, stay there, and goes and grabs she'd be like, and maybe make sure you bring, and maybe like, because he's got the scene here, he walks in with the tape, with the gaffer tape or with the whatever, and she's like, yeah, and they stay fully dressed for the next hour, and she's just like exploding, and then the shapeshifter moves through all of them. So there's, and I've given examples of like some negative stuff and positive stuff, but each blueprint has its what they call in the erotic blueprint world by Jaya is superpowers and what do we
There's
call
the accelerator and the brakes.
Yeah, so that's another way of putting it. Yeah, what shuts us down, and then what are our superpowers in that? So So I hope that explained it well, but that was so much fun.
Well, yeah, I yeah, it was good. And I really appreciate, noticing. So as somebody who identifies as energetic and a shapeshifter, which makes perfect sense. It's like, yes, that whole thing of having too much energy, not being settled enough to be open and welcome. And what I think is really interesting and important about the blueprints is this idea that, when we're in the beginning of our relationship, right? We don't pay attention to much of this because we're on new relationship energy. But the longer we're in relationship, the more we need to pay attention to these things. And the more we need to understand, like, what is our arousal arc, right? And, I think one of the challenging things for men that I've worked with is that the box that they're in is the sexual box, right? I'm up, I've got a cock. There's two of us here. I need to be aroused and I need to be moving. And that's not accurate. And so really understanding, this goes back to your point about the more we know ourselves, the more we know our bodies, the more we can play with our own energy, the better it is for us, but the better it is for our partners. And there's this place where really coming together and being able to meet each other is getting harder and harder, right? Because there's more of this, there's more places where we feel prickly with each other. Um, you know, and so I really appreciate what you're saying about like learning these things for yourself and then bringing them to your partner and sharing them with your partner.
I want to speak to that part where when you're talking about, yes, many men are in that box, like the sex box. And I think that's also what our culture really pushes men into, that as a man, you are in that sex box and you just want sex one way and you need to like sex in a certain way and you need to produce a result. And I think that's what the incredible part of the erotic blueprints gives men, is it gives them another map. Because I work with many men that, when they find out, they do the quiz and they're like, I'm an energetic. And just how the whole world changes, like, oh, I don't, because they feel like they're failing or they're not man enough or they're not doing they're so in their mind that because I can't show up like the porn star, energetic or their sensual or their kink is like, I actually am not so interested in always penetration. I want other stuff. But they don't know how to speak about it. So it's actually really incredible for men to understand that their maps are not all the way that pornography and movies keep telling them. That they, society's also boxed men in, as much as we talked about before, how it dismembers a lot of women's pleasure. It just completely boxes men into like a one-trick pony idea, which none of us women want. And if you're heterosexual and you want to, you don't need to be.
No, we want more variety. So this seems like a really good time to hear more about, your work, and how can people find you and work with you more?
Oh, thank you, darling. Yes, yum yum. I always say get onto my Substack email list because that is juicy.
It is. It is.
Yes, and as a true woman, I will just go from political views around sexuality and then the how to, and like I move a lot through in there. Like it's not just one topic always, it's for women and for men and everything in between. So definitely get onto my Substack. The other thing is like, and once you're on there, you're in all my links. My Instagram is Melissa Louise Intimacy. That's all moving up again, which is really fantastic. And of course, melissalouise.world is my website. But yeah, definitely Instagram and Substack. It's juicy.
So I'm going to have you spell that. Melissa.
MELISSALOUISE WORLD.
I love your voice. It's amazing. And I know that you have audios where you use this incredible voice of yours.
Good.
Please tell us more.
Oh my goodness, yes. Well, when we're talking melissalouise.world, then you go //man. This is my man in control program where it's very practical, but incredibly very juicy as well. So it's a 4-module program where I teach you how to understand your PNR, your point of no return, how to build your pleasure zone. Many, many different tricks, I would have to say, but many different ways how to biohack your arousal response so that you can build all of this power in your body and last so much longer in bed. And also one of those modules is lengthening and strengthening your cock, it's all around blood flow, but it's actually gym for your cock. So we say lengthen and strengthen so that, it sort of catches a lot of attention, but it's actually gym for your cock. Just have a gym for your arms and for your legs and for your butt, or that we have gym for your cock. And then what comes also with that program are these audios, because I can give you all of the practice. I will tell you how, I will, show you how to do it all, but then we want the practice. So I have guided audios where I will be guiding you to masturbate for 20 minutes, half an hour, doing your Kegels the right way. And I'm just your backup dancer in your ears.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for joining us today, Melissa Louise. This has been such a juicy conversation. I think I might actually be blushing, which doesn't happen very often. So thank you so much. Please, to learn more about her, follow her, melissalouise.world. Check out Substack. Did you say it was Substack at Melissa Louise?
Melissa Louise, yeah. And the link is just below. So I'm going to, that's all there. But yeah, Melissa Louise in Substack. It may come under the Pleasure Studio still. So the Pleasure Studio, but it's always Melissa Louise Substack. You'll find me. Yeah.
Got it. Well, I will definitely put the links in the show notes. And thank you all for tuning in to the Better Sex Podcast. If you're ready to create the love and sex you've always wanted, you want to start by taking the relationship assessment at deborahcat.com. So a great sex life isn't magic. It's practice. Keep showing up for yours, for your partners, and for the world's. And again, thank you so much, Melissa Louise. Bye for now.